Is this Alira? Oh, sorry. You're on mute.
Hi.
Hi, is it Alira?
It's Rupi, actually.
Oh, Rupi. Okay.
Hi. So sorry for the little delay. I was having a little difficult time connecting.
We're just starting. Thank you.
Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we start, this meeting will be recorded and then it will be posted maybe tomorrow. If you need to raise your hand, if you look down at the white box that comes up on your screen, there's a raise hand option. If you click that, your hand is raised, and I'll do that right now just so you can see. If you look at me, I have a hand raised. If you don't have that option, then you can just type in the dialog box or the chat box, hand, and hopefully we'll see it. So we'll start today by honoring the land. Halton, as we know it today, is rich in history and modern traditions of many First Nations in the Métis. From the Anishinaabe to the Ottawandaron to the Haudenosaunee and the Métis, these lands surrounding the Great Lakes are steeped in Indigenous history. As we gather today on these treaty lands, we have the responsibility to honor and respect the four directions, land, waters, plants, animals, ancestors that walked before us, and all the wonderful elements of creation that exist. We would like to acknowledge and thank the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation for sharing their traditional territory with us. We are going to start with our introductions. Steve will be taking the minutes for us this evening, so let's start with Steve.
Thanks, Andrea. I'm a secondary vice principal assigned to the PIC committee as sort of a support for John and a support for the group. I help navigate different things that you need with board resources. I'm currently the vice principal at Georgetown High School. I've worked in schools in Burlington and in Milton, and I'm also a Halton parent. I've got 3 kids in schools in Milton as well. Welcome, everybody. I'm glad you're all here.
Great, thank you. And then we'll move on to our superintendent, John.
Hi, I'm John Pennyfather. I'm superintendent of education. I have responsibility for schools in Burlington and parent engagement and outreach.
And I'll go to me. I am one of the co-chairs of the PIC committee. My name is Andrea Chan. I live in Oakville and I have 2 kids in high school. And we'll move on to Zena, the other co-chair.
Hi, everyone. How are you? This is Zena Almuderis, the co-chair for the PIC committee. I am the parent from Oakville. Nice to meet you.
And sorry, I'm just going to call your name and then that's your turn. Sorry, I forgot to tell you that. Nina.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nina. I'm one of the co-chairs from White Oak Secondary School. That's the school my son is attending. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Sherry?
Hi, my name is Sherry White. I live in Acton, and I have 2 kids, one who attends Mackenzie Smith Bennett in Acton, and my son goes to Sam Sherritt in Milton.
Thank you. Rupi?
Hi, my name is Rupi Mann. I live in Burlington. I have 2 children that are attending high school in Burlington.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ali?
Sorry, I was just enjoying some coffee
sorry.
there. Hi. Oh, no worry. Hi, my name is Ali Chaudhry. I live in Milton, Ontario, and my son goes to Bruce Trail Public School. Thank you.
Thank you. Lauren?
Hi, my name is Lauren Ives. I live in Milton, and I have 2 kids at Milton District High School. Nice to meet everyone.
Jose? Oh, you're on mute.
Keep doing that. Sorry, I'm Jose Landrio, and my son goes to Georgetown District High School.
Thank you. Patricia?
Hi, I'm Patricia Kirshner. I live in Georgetown, and my sons attend Silver Creek Public School.
Thank you. Nori?
Hi, everyone. My name is Nuri. I live in Rockwood. One of my child goes to Brookville Public School, which is in Campbellville, and my other child goes to Sam Sheridan Public School in Milton. I'm glad to be here and lovely meeting everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Sarah Suhail.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah. I'm a co-chair at Ryerson Public in Burlington, and my daughter's in there.
Hi, thank you. And Sarah Sharif.
Hi, my name is Sarah Sharif, and I live in Burlington, and my kids go to Orchard Public.
Hi, thank you. And we have a community member that's on our PIC committee as well, and that's Uzma.
Yep, I'm Uzma Kazi. I'm a youth settlement specialist. I work in collaboration with the school board. I am stationed in many schools, 3 high schools and an elementary school. And I work mainly with the newcomer families.
Thank you. And we have 2 trustees here with us tonight. Tanya?
Good evening. My name is Tanya Rocha. I am the one of the trustees for Oakville, and I look after East Oakville, which is wards 3 and 6. But I also do have children in elementary school with the Halton District School Board.
Thank you, Tanya. And Jean?
Thank you very much. My name is Jean Gray, and I'm the trustee for Halton Hills. And I see that Trustee Amos has now joined us.
Oh, hello. Hi, Kelly. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Kelly Amos. I'm the trustee for Oakville wards 5 and 7, which is northeast Oakville. And I've been a trustee since 2000. Hi, everybody.
Thank you. Zena, would you like me to continue, or are you okay?
Yeah, I'll try my best. Thank you so much, Andrea. Thanks, everyone, for the introduction. So for today, we will have a speaker, which is Tanya Wood. Tanya Wood is an instructional program leader for the Halton District School Board. In her current role, she is responsible for all professional development related to the elementary health and physical education curriculum, safety, well-being, and outdoor experimental education. So today she is with us in this meeting, and welcome her in the board. Please go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I also have children in the Halton District School Board. I live in Burlington, and my daughter is actually graduated and in first year university, but my son is in grade 11 at Nelson. So I also have a parent investment in the Halton District School Board, as well as being an employee. So I am going to share my screen. I have a bit of a slide presentation for you. John asked me to speak to you today a little bit about the outdoor experiential education and what we've been doing in Halton, what we have done and what we're currently doing, and sort of where we're hoping to go. So I have just a few slides put together to give you a bit of a sense of our journey. I will tell you that I am new to the role of OEE. It was not in my portfolio until last year. So I was brought up to speed on a lot of the different initiatives that we have done in past years. But it is a passion of mine. And so I am really enjoying being connected to that part of my portfolio. So just give me a second here and I'll get set up. That's not what I want to do. Okay, can everybody see my screen okay? I can't see you, so.
Yes, we're good, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm just gonna give you a bit of an idea of what we have already done. From 2016 to 2019, the School Programs Department conducted collaborative inquiry projects in schools. So basically, teachers were released to work collaboratively with other with teachers in other schools within their grades, come up with an inquiry type project related to outdoor ed. And they had sort of co-plan, co-teach sessions that they worked around. So the first couple of years, I think, was getting their feet wet a little bit with it. And by 2019, the end of the 2019 school year, they they pretty much done as much as they possibly could around the collaborative inquiry. 2018 to 2019, they started a leadership project, so the OEE Leadership Project, and they facilitated training of OEE leads to build capacity in HDSB schools. So the idea with the OEE leads was to create sort of a committee that we could lean on to facilitate training on a bigger scale. So the idea moving forward was that they would help with some of the PD because they were in the trenches, so to speak, conducting the OEE in their school, working with classes, and they could take their learning back and help facilitate some of the professional development that we were offering through school programs. In 2019-20, so last year, this is when I came on board, we decided to take it in a little bit of a different direction. We felt that the collaborative inquiry projects had been somewhat exhausted, and that it was the same thing over and over again. And so we wanted it to be a little bit more authentic in terms of the learning that we wanted teachers to be able to experience. But we still wanted to keep in mind that capacity building with the OEE leads. So what we did is at the beginning of the year, we brought together all the leads from the previous year, and we brainstormed basically the idea to conduct workshops for kindergarten, primary, junior, and intermediate to demonstrate how the curriculum lives in the world outside the classroom, and that they could use their learning spaces, playgrounds, surrounding community spaces and whatnot, and how to connect it to their curriculum. So the plan was, and we unfortunately only got to the first 2 sets of workshops in November. We released teachers from each of those divisions on 2 separate days. And our OEE leads, along with Leslie Vandekamp, who has since retired, and myself, we led a full-day workshop at Sidrabeen. And we basically gave them an overview of OEE and then had them participate in different sessions connected to curriculum. So our OEE leads took them through a 20 to 30 minute outdoor session that showed them how they could incorporate art, or they could incorporate social science, or they could connect to different parts of the curriculum. And then they came back together to do some sort of mapping of how, as a grade team, they could bring that back and connect to their outdoor spaces in their schools. So the first 2 sessions were extremely successful. The funding that we were given from the ministry was used for release, but it was also to go towards field trip type ideas. So all the people who ended up coming to the workshop were then able to apply for funding to basically take what they had learned at the workshop and then implement it in a space. So they could either have an outside, an external vendor come in and run some OEE pieces at their school, or they could take them to a list of places that we had given them. So mainly Halton conservation areas, Mountsburg, and Crawford Lake, and places like that, where they can really see how the curriculum lives outside the classroom. The other thing that we did is we created, and I'm happy to put the link to the slide deck in the chat after, is we created a self-directed learning module for staff. We felt that this was probably the easiest way for staff to see if they were looking for sort of a starting point for including some outdoor experiential education in their program, if they weren't very familiar with it. So it's almost like a new to OEE, and just gives them some different things to think about if they're going to implement a program within their school or within their classroom. And then the other thing that we began last year was there's a secondary co-op program That's run by a woman by the name of Rachel Irwin. And Rachel and her co-op students started a program called Neighborhood Eco Action Rangers. So they're called N.E.A.R. And the idea was to focus on students in grade 5. So I'm going to give you a little bit more information about that in a second here. So currently, what's happening right now in Halton is that we are doing some professional development called Virtually Outdoors for teachers of the climate school. So I am going to go into a little bit more detail about what that is, but if you haven't heard, we have partnered with Evergreen and Halton District School Board with Irma Coulson as the school that was chosen to be the climate school. So we're looking at some professional development that's happening for the staff there. Nature's N.E.A.R has developed some virtual sessions for teachers, for elementary teachers. Their current focus has been grade 5, but we did offer it out to some grade 3 and some grade 6 teachers. We are in the process of coming up with some outdoor experiential education resources for staff. So looking at some funding that we have to put out to schools around project proposals that they could do, that they could potentially do around their school, and then also offering some different resources that we could give them so that they could implement some OEE on their grounds. And I've been connecting a lot with external vendors. So Royal Botanical Gardens, Halton Conservation, and just how they can support HDSB programs virtually. So they have a lot available. The RBG programs are all free, which is fantastic. Halton Conservation does have a bit of a price, but we do have some funding that we might be able to help supplement with some of that programming. So that's great news. So I mentioned this earlier, the climate school. The climate school is the first of its kind for Halton. So we're basically entered into a partnership with Evergreen to create an outdoor climate ready space for Irma Coulson Public School. There were 2 other schools that were in the running for this as well. Oakwood School in Oakville, and then Harrison Public School, which is up in Georgetown. So we are offering the professional development that we're doing through Evergreen with those the staff at those schools as well. And then hopefully we'll be able to put it out to the board in a bit of a broader scope. So this is actually a pretty exciting project. We meet weekly with the Irma Coulson staff to look at the involvement of students, there's staff involvement, there's community involvement. It's a whole school approach to this outdoor garden that's being designed by an architect from Berlin. So we've met with her. And she's basically taking into account all of the ideas that the school is coming back with. And I believe the idea is to have a bit of a framework for what it might look like in January. So that's some really exciting pieces there. So a little bit more on Nature's N.E.A.R. What we've done with Nature's N.E.A.R is this year, well, last year when we started the program, the co-op students that were involved in it had created a program for grade 5 students that they were actually going to go into schools and deliver. So they spent a fair amount of time coming up with what their theme was going to be, how they would connect it to curriculum, and then they were going to go into the schools and actually deliver the program for teachers. So almost like a guest speaker coming into their classroom. So unfortunately, with the shutdown last year, it was never able to happen. So this year we tried to brainstorm how we could actually get this out to teachers in a virtual environment. And Rachel was lucky enough to have 5 amazing co-op students that put together a fantastic a program called Project Leaf, and connecting to about 4 or 5 different curriculum areas. And what they did is they delivered about a 30-minute presentation to students. So the teachers would put them up on a screen on a Google Meet. They delivered the presentation to the students for about 30 minutes. And then their outdoor activity was done by the teacher. So the co-op students weren't involved in that part of it. The teacher was given all of the information ahead of time. And they then went out and spent about a 40-50 minute period of time outside with the students doing the activity that the co-op students had created. And then they came back for sort of a consolidation on the project and what they felt. So it was about a 100-minute period is basically what they looked at creating this this project for. So given the quadmester style of the secondary school this year, the first quadmester was where these students belonged. However, they didn't really start until almost after, I want to say just after Thanksgiving, getting it organized. So they were in the last week of their quadmester able to deliver the program about 7 or 8 times. And the feedback from teachers was really quite amazing. They did a fantastic job. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with that. And you know, just in terms of sustainability moving forward with how these guys can offer their program in person, but also offer it virtually for staff who would prefer it that way. So that's happening there. These are just some pictures that some of these teachers have sent to show what they're doing in terms of connecting to different parts of the curriculum, whether it's using natural life to make art or math. I think this was a fractions, if I'm not mistaken, this was a fractions unit. So looking at creating 3/4 and how they did that. So the one on the right is artwork, and then the one on the left, and also looking at symmetry, I think they were looking at here. And then on the left, we're looking at some measurement pieces, temperature, some snow art with some of these students. This was from a kindergarten teacher at Mohawk Gardens who spent copious amount of times taking her students outside and connecting it to the natural environment. So just some more pictures from this same teacher. And then this is what they did. So they had gone to Hidden Valley and they completed basically a hanging map of their time at Hidden Valley. And so the kids had drawn on there what they'd done. And then there were some pictures that showed the different spots that they had been. So just a neat representation of some of the outdoor ed that's happening in the board. So that's all I have for you. I'm just wondering if anyone has any questions.
Andrea Chan has a question. Hands up.
I do. I love the outdoor education piece. Like, I love it. I saw some of them were in the snow. So when it comes to winter and when it comes to the colder weather, are they kind of doing the same thing but using snow? Like, can you tell us more about what they'll do in the winter?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And you know, it's super unfortunate just the way last year kind of happened, especially with us having been in teacher sanctions, because our second workshop that we had wanted to do for teachers was in January. And the idea around conducting the workshops that we were going to conduct was one in the fall, one in the winter, and then one in the spring. And then teachers had a window of time to use the funding to then connect to the field trip or whatever they were going to use it for. So our hope was to actually do a winter workshop where we could demonstrate how they could still use the outdoors in the winter to still connect to curriculum and not be so afraid of it, really. So, it's been challenging. I think this year is kind of interesting only because teachers want to be outside as much as possible, as do kids. So, I support health and phys ed teachers, and my phys ed teachers right now are outside continuously. I have some teachers who have yet to go in the gym. So I think that that's a great thing. I think we're going to see it a little bit more this year because it's going to be a bit of a break. It's a mask break for kids. And student voice is dictating that they want to be outside. So it's very interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm hoping that moving forward that we can start to offer some more workshops again in the winter. But I am kind of interested to see what's going to happen this year with it. So we don't have anything planned as of right now.
Thank you. Sarah had her hand up next, and after her, Jean Gray. Go ahead, Sarah.
Again, just to reinforce, I think this is a brilliant program. We're so lucky to be living in an area where kids and teachers can leverage this. I really hope to see this roll across all schools. I would just love a link to the deck, like you mentioned, explore some of the additional resources that you linked in it.
Yeah, just give me 1 sec here and I'll put the link in for you.
Thank you very much.
Jean, go ahead.
Thank you very much, John. I wanted to make mention that last night at the board table, the student trustees gave quite a report from the Student Senate. And one of the important things that they reported on was how children are adapting to all of the new rules and the new way of attending school. And one of the things that seemed to be a recurring theme was that whole break from the mask and that notion of being outside and enjoying the out of doors. So I think that this is just right on and very timely and appropriate, and our students will benefit so much. I know that that was so very much emphasized last night through the Student Senate. And so kudos to this program, and I hope that all teachers are able to make and take advantage of this and get the students outside more often. Thank you.
Thanks. I don't see any other hands at this point.
I see. Lose my hands up.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Zena, go ahead, please.
No, Ozma is raising hand.
Yes, I just wanted to know more about the climate school and what is the theory behind it, or is it a new concept, and where would it take the school?
So the climate school it's in partnership with an organization called Evergreen. I think I did link a few things, the slides in the slide deck. I'm just going to pull it up on my other computer here because I have the information there. So I actually just got pulled into the Climate Ready School piece a couple of weeks ago. So my understanding was that there was some funding to go towards this, and that there was a whole process involving Suzanne Burwell and a number of different people to sort of get it rolling. But basically, they're looking at taking the Irma Coulson site and turning the playground into basically a climate area. So it's going to have, they're going to use it as cooling shades. They'll do for managing stormwater. They would. It's looking at an outdoor space for learning. So they could include gardens, it could include seating areas, it could include some type of a covered area. It will also include trees and landscaping and things like that. If you actually look at the Evergreen website, there is some information on there. I can throw that link up in here too for you. They do have some pictures of some different schools that they've done. I'll see if I can find it for you quickly.
I can jump in as well.
Yeah, John,
Tanya, if you want.
I think you might have a little bit more information than I
Yeah,
did. Been in it for.
I was on the selection team and working with Evergreen as well, and there's actually, it's a $900,000 project.
Yes.
Which is $400,000 from our board and $500,000 from Evergreen has backers who want to see this done at schools, and it's the whole climate resilience, making the site climate resilient. If you look at Irma Coulson right now, they have a field and it's pretty packed down, and the water sheds right away. It doesn't absorb water, and as you know, as we go forward with climate change and try to adapt, one of the things you try to do is make a site resilient to, you know, bursts of weather, and as Tanya said, provide shade, lots of shade in parts, so that you can grow cover crop and all that kind of thing. The other part that's a big part of this is it's not only a learning space for the kids and an enjoyable space, is the community, the whole community surrounding it. We want them to go and enjoy it as well. So it's drawing in the whole community, and part of the whole process is community consultation. And it's very exciting. It's never been done before, and it is the site was chosen because we had a short list, and then the 3 schools that were mentioned were all had great presentations. This site is kind of typical of what happens to sites. It was like the most typical, where we get everything trampled down, beaten down, the grass dies, and so how can we do this differently, and how can we make this a real oasis for the kids and the community, and also contribute to carbon capture and averting climate change. So that was the whole, I was in on a lot of the meetings, and you're very lucky I couldn't attend the one with the, it's a world famous architect who was working with the kids and the staff and the community. So really a cool thing.
Yeah, so I believe they just had the community meetings, or the community information meetings. They were either, I think they were on Monday, if I'm not mistaken, and they were recorded for folks who weren't able to make it. This coming Monday, they're doing the virtually outdoors first of 3 sessions, which are PD sessions for the staff. So Evergreen is actually leading the professional development. But when they did ask me to come in and be a part of the steering committee, their hope is that we can take it out to the rest of the board. So even though Irma Coulson is going to be the climate school in terms of the facilities that they're going to be getting, they want the learning to be able to be extended to the rest of Halton. So that's where I kind of fit in, where we're going to look at how we can bring some of that learning out to the rest of our schools, which will be great. So the 3 schools that were in the final, so Oakwood and Harrison and Irma Coulson staff, were all invited to the professional development, and it's a 3-part series. So I have no idea what they're presenting, so I'm kind of excited to see what's going to be on their topics and what kind of activities and things like that they're going to be looking at. So it'll be interesting to see what we can bring back and share to the rest of the board.
We had one other question there, and it's our first meeting with some of our new members, and the name isn't the same. So can you say your name? But it's coming. I've got a hand up for Amric, so help me here, please. And I apologize for not catching that.
Sorry, so I had my hand up. It's Rupi, but it shows up as
Rupi.
Alera.
Okay, Rupi, pardon me. There we go.
So I work with N.E.A.R Canada, and this is just a little history on why I have this name here. I'm a service director with N.E.A.R Canada, and a lot of people see me and they try to reach out to me on Facebook, and my name being Rupi, then they would find me. Like, I saw you on my flight. So I changed my social media name to Alera, so nobody knows who I am.
Okay.
So a little
Okay.
history on that. So
Yeah.
my question was to Tanya. This is an amazing initiative, and I think it's a great that they're funding so much money into the learning of the little minds and helping them grow closer to nature and being outside and so forth. Now, is this program offered to senior schools as well, or no?
No. So this project in particular is strictly elementary. The secondaries, I don't actually work with the secondary OEE program. What I do know with regards to outdoor ed in secondary is there are specific courses that are directly related to outdoor experiential education. So a lot of the funding that we get for OEE goes sort of into those courses. My colleague, Rebecca Richardson, has that in her portfolio. So she deals mainly with the teachers that are actually teaching OEE. So it's a little bit different. We don't see as much, and maybe Steve or John can speak to it a little bit better from a secondary perspective, but we don't see it as much with classes going outside and using the outdoors for their learning space unless they're in that type of a class. And maybe I'm speaking out of turn by saying that, but Steve, maybe you can kind of clarify it for me.
Yeah, I can. Thanks, Tanya. The outdoor education looks a little bit differently in secondary. They're credit courses, so the students are working on outdoor education curriculum, and it's very much experience-based as well. So the students may be doing outdoor winter camping in the winter. They may be going on a trip. There could be outdoor cooking. There could be outdoor snowshoeing. There could be Algonquin Park. When we used to go on trips, there used to be lots of different things that we would do. But it's not about sustainability as much as it's about experiences for kids. I think that's the difference really between elementary and secondary.
Right. Thank you.
Any more question? Anyone?
I think Jean has her hand up still, or is that from before? Okay.
I think that's from before.
Yeah, you have to put your hand down.
Yeah.
You have to click your hand down when you're finished.
Okay, so for everyone who are interested, I think there's a hand. Nuri, please go ahead.
Hi, Tanya. I just wanted to tell you that the entire thing looks so impressive and it's so interesting. And clearly, I mean, today when I received the agenda and I was like reading more about it, and I know different countries and across the world are actually into nature-based learning and using hands-on for kids to learn in an outdoor environment. And also reading about it, I found that this not only is good for kids to learn like team building, leadership, persistence, resilience, and it reduces stress, is good to lower like ADHD and like so many benefits. So this is just amazing. And thank you for all the resources that you have shared. Definitely, I'm sure everybody's going to look into that later on. But it's so exciting, and I wish there more schools can come up with something like this. And if we ever have a chance to go visit the climate school, that would be amazing in itself, right? To go and actually see what's going on outside.
So one of the really nice things, actually, I found out, I think I just found out today, I don't know, the days tend to blend into one when you're on screens all the time, I find. But the ministry does have funding for OEE. And I mean, we had a whole proposal last year about how we were going to use that funding, and unfortunately that got cut short. The nice thing is that we were able to roll that money over. So we were able to roll that money over to this year. And then we were actually just given our budget in elementary, and it's about a $340,000 budget, which is pretty amazing. The only problem is that it's sitting. There's some pretty huge restrictions on what we can spend that money on, and only 10% of the money can be spent on equipment. So one of the things that I did at the end of last year with some of my phys ed money is I bought snowshoes for schools. So there's about 20 schools that I was able to give full sets of snowshoes to. So I can actually use some of that funding to outfit more schools, because to be able to use, to the point about winter play and getting outside, Andrea, like if the kids have the snowshoes, they're engaged and they want to get out there and it's fun and it's movement and all that kind of stuff, right? And then they can do other things as well. So I can do that. The nice thing that they told us, because I was in a webinar yesterday about it, is that if we don't use the money, because the money has to be used either for teacher release, which we're not doing, or excursions, which we're not doing. So they've said we can roll it over again. So, you know, we need to kind of hash it out a little bit more, but in my personal opinion, I think we'd be better off using the 10% maybe that we can use to maybe support some equipment in schools, and perhaps maybe support some virtual pieces that could come in, like the Halton Conservation programs are great. And if we can support schools with some of that virtual piece, that's great. But I see the rest of that money being better used next year, hopefully, and when we can release teachers and do the excursions and all that kind of stuff. So the nice thing is they don't take it away if you don't spend it. They're letting us roll it over. So I was kind of happy to hear that news, because it gives us some options.
Thank you.
Sherry White had her hand up.
Yeah, when we're talking, just I guess from a funding perspective, I know it came up in our Halton Hills Community Council meeting that there's still some schools up here in the north in Halton Hills that were, because of this piece around the whole outdoor education, still didn't have a lot of usable outdoor space, and they were trying to figure out, you know, how to increase that. They were talking with, I guess, other board staff around, you know, the design piece. But are those two, does the right hand get to know what the left hand is doing? Like, is that money able to be shared when we're talking about even creating some of the outdoor learning spaces,
So
if a school doesn't have one currently?
Yeah, so that money unfortunately can't be used for that. It's very structured in terms of what they let us use that money for. But that said, we do have some other funding that we are looking at, project proposals from schools. So we're just finalizing some of the details on that, and I'm hoping to be able to send out the project proposal form to schools before the Christmas break. And then we will be looking at those proposals when we come back in January. And those ones, they can request, right now we're looking up to about, I think we put a cap of about $25,000 per school. So if a school was looking at having, requesting an outdoor structure of some kind, that would be within the realm of what they could ask for in this project proposal. That said, they do have to have some accountability for it. So there has to be some pieces that they, in the proposal, they have to have someone that's willing to take the lead on that. So a staff member or an administrator. So there has to be a bit of a team, and there is a bit of an accountability piece in terms of what they're using that space for and why they want that space. So there are some bigger pieces that they can be requesting. So that's coming soon. I'm just waiting. We were hoping to get it out last week, actually, and then we had a bit of a stalling piece happen at a higher pay grade than mine.
So just to jump in there, if you do have a school that's looking for help with outdoor learning spaces, we have a person in the board. And if you send me your email, or if you know the school council chair, or you're talking to the principal, have them email me, and I can connect them to that person, because that's on the facilities side.
Yeah.
So for outdoor learning places, so we can connect people. So they can find out what they.
And Suzanne and I are working together on that. So
Great.
Yeah, so we're working together on those OE project proposals. So we're just waiting on a couple of bits from before we. But she's had a good say. We've been collaborating on how to send that out. So.
Great.
Okay, Brian, so I'm going to jump in here and just for Ali's question will be the last question, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, Ali, go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The question I have, and thank you, Tanya, for that presentation. Question I have with outdoor education, is there an Indigenous component or capacity to involve our Indigenous communities in the aspect of learning outside? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question, and definitely. I mean, we connect with Steve Paquette. He's does a lot of consulting work for us. And so we, there's definitely different opportunities for that to happen. I can't speak to things that have happened in the past and whether he's been involved in pieces around the outdoor ed. I do know that with our programs last year in the fall programs, it was addressed by our OEE leads, and they talk about how you can definitely incorporate the Indigenous perspective in there. But I think maybe that's something that maybe we need to explore a little bit further, and how we can make those connections within our schools.
Sure. I don't know how we can explore that. I'm willing to help you explore that if that's a conversation we can have, or if it's a conversation we have with somebody else. You know, I'd like to be part of that. So
yeah, I think it's maybe involving our equity team and just seeing, you know, how we can bring sort of bring those pieces into it a little bit more, and see how we can definitely be sort of conscious of the Indigenous perspective for sure. So a lot of the, especially with a lot of the programs at Crawford Lake and Mountsburg, depending on different bits of the curriculum and which curriculum areas they're addressing, they bring that Indigenous perspective into it. So sometimes it really depends on what the kids are, what teachers are doing curriculum wise, sort of what they're really addressing. But it'd be good to see how we could bring it into the schools, especially in a time right now where we can't go anywhere. So that would be, that'd be a good one to reach out to. I can definitely reach out to Shannon Morgan, is the acting Indigenous IPL on the equity team. So it's a really good question. So I can definitely approach that from my end for sure.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thanks so much for all the questions. For those who are interested, there will be in the chat box, there will be the link for the presentation and also for the Evergreen website. So you can go to the chat box and click on it and you can find more information. Thank you so much, Tanya, for this amazing presentation. We just, we don't know how to thank you, but I think you bring us so much information today, and thank you. So now we will go to the superintendent report. Andrea, go ahead.
Thank
you, Tanya.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tanya. And for new members, and also when we play this for the public, we had that presentation tonight because the Parent Involvement Committee requested it. It came out of the whole, what are we going to do and how will we manage ourselves with COVID? How are we going to get kids outside? And that request came from this team, so outstanding. And that's how the presentations at these meetings generally happen. For the January 14th meeting, our equity team, that was our second request by this committee when we had a planning meeting, so to the new members. So as you hear things tonight, if there's, and you want to learn more about something, that's the idea of these, that you as mavens out there connecting with you know, school councils and supporting school councils and connecting with parents, that you learn more, or you learn the things that you want to learn and take them out there. So I'll be really quick here. The main thing I have to talk about is the PRO grants. PRO grants, for those that don't know, are parent reaching out grants. And there was, because we're having such a different year, there was some, we weren't sure if we were going to have them. We have a similar amount of funds to last year, around $39,000. And we will be administering the application process for these funds, and that's school councils use these for parent nights of some kind or another, typically. And there are rules that we have to follow, and some projects are eligible and some are not. So that information will all be coming out. The application process will be similar to last year, a Google form, because we tried to make it easy for school councils and principals last year. The final report will also be a Google form, so it's quick and easy, and that way when we can take that data and send it into the ministry afterwards, because there is an accountability aspect. What is different is that we will have to limit ourselves in our projects this year. Obviously, they're going to have to be examples. There's maybe a virtual speaker or some kind of virtual evening conference for parents. Other options are put it towards parent libraries. That's an eligible thing with this funding. So it might be many people talk about after COVID coming back better, and if you had a parent library that was there for folks, that might be something that they'll think of. But we'll have the details on that. Also different is that schools will have to submit their final report and their receipts to get the money. So it's going to be turned around a little bit that way, but it shouldn't be, we want to make it not arduous. We want to make some, writing the report about under half an hour, and we want to make applying for it under 15 minutes, because we want to don't want to bog people down. School council chairs and principals will work together on the application and report. We will be going over all of this January 21st, meeting with the school PIC liaison reps. So in your on your agenda in the meetings, that meeting is there, and at that January 21st meeting, little plug, our equity team will be there for to work with they were formerly called PIC reps. We call them the school PIC liaison reps, because we were trying to differentiate between you as the parent involvement committee. And as I said, the equity team's working with them on the 21st, and they will be here at our meeting on the 14th. And last year we developed PIC bylaws, and they so that we would be compliant with Reg 330. They've had a legal review over the summer and a review by our equity advisor, Dr. Dula Amoa, and we'll send these to PIC members and post them on the web. That will be upcoming, so please watch out for those. And thank you very much.
John, I just had a question. Have they been approved then? The bylaws?
Have who been approved?
The bylaws, everything's good?
Well, as a PIC committee, we developed them, and then we put them through legal review. So there were some changes that they suggested. So
okay.
We made those changes, and then Dr. Jewel Amoa suggested certain nuance changes. So we did those too. So we'll be sending those out.
Thank you. And we're going to move on to the trustees.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
So
Tanya had a question first.
I'm sorry. Ali also has a hand up. So yeah, I heard 2 dates. I heard January 14 and I heard January 21. Can you just clarify what's happening on the 14th and what's happening on the 21st?
14th is our parent involvement committee meeting. That's this group here.
Okay.
And the 21st is our school PIC reps meeting where we traditionally talk about PRO grants, but also equity will also do a presentation there as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Ali?
Hi, John. The question I have is E.G. James Public School had a guest speaker, virtual guest speaker, Julie Black, to discuss diversity, inclusion, anti-Black racism. Is this the sort of thing that qualifies?
Yes.
Were they using PIC money for this virtual event?
Well, they weren't because it wasn't sent out yet, and they have to put in a project. But that would be an outstanding project. And what would be great about that is the trustees are going to talk a little bit about the multi-year plan, and that is one of their major commitments there. So that kind of ties all that together. So that's exactly what we're thinking of with PRO grants.
I just have a quick follow-on. When these proposals come in, is there any coordination at the board level to maybe consolidate events so that we don't have small events with 20 parents, but instead we can maybe ask schools to open them up to the board to regions? I don't know.
Definitely. Last year there were schools that grouped together and said we're doing this with 3 others, and that way they can pool their resources to do it. So we would encourage that. And then often what happens is, even if they don't pool their resources, they have a speaker and they invite other schools. That's been a real tradition. So they invite other their close community, in their school community, nearby schools, etc. So yes, there's actually on the application form last year, there was a question, will you be working with any other schools on this project? So that will be there again.
Okay, but sorry, another follow-on to my follow-on. Is that something that's coordinated at the board, or would that be the responsibility of the schools? Because we don't know what other schools are doing.
That's the responsibility of the schools, and that's where we need principals to help connect, and school council chairs. But at our PRO, at our PIC rep meetings, before they were virtual, and I maybe we can get some breakout rooms for that one so that folks can have a talk. I'll ask the really smart tech people to help us with that, because that was always a feature of that meeting. So they sort of said, hey, we're thinking of this year. And they were able to hook up. So I think Steve's nodding his head, so I think it's a doable thing to set up breakout rooms. So we'll try to get that ready for that.
Okay, thank you.
And actually, that's a good segue, because I know that, for instance, Kelly has had family of schools meetings with the chairs from schools all over their family of schools, where we've connected and talked as a family of schools to see which speakers were bringing in and whether or not we can collaborate. Now I'm going to pass it on over to the trustees.
Thank you very much. As we mentioned earlier tonight, Trustee Rocha is here, Trustee Amos is here, and we have a sort of a collection of small items to present. The first one is the multi-year plan, and John, I sent that to you a little bit late this evening. I wondered if there's any way that you could share the screen with the report that I sent to you, and I'll start, okay? And so it may be possible that we have the multi-year plan put up, but failing that, I'll just fill you in. Under the Education Act, trustees are required to oversee the creation of the multi-year plan. And just recently, on November the 4th, the 2020 to 2024 multi-year plan was passed. It was quite a journey to get to this point of having a multi-year plan passed. But I guess the first thing we want to talk about is why a strategic plan? Well, the strategic plan is the roadmap or the vision on which informs the board's decisions and the allocation of resources. And that's critical if we are to ensure student success and an improved achievement in the system. Each year, an operational plan is created to get into the nuts and bolts of the specific actions of the progress of the multi-year implementation. And in that multi-year plan implementation, the trustees get those reports again on an annual or semi-annual basis as we get caught up to date on just exactly how things are working out. For the next 4 years, we have a multi-year plan that has 5 key components. The first one is equity and inclusion. The second, mental health and well-being. Third, learning and achievement. Fourth, environmental leadership. And fifth, Indigenous perspectives and awareness. And all of these are not independent silos. They are all intermixed so that there will be crossover with all of these. I would like to say that in the development of this plan, suddenly, as we worked through months of work on this, all of a sudden the world changed in March. And as you know, when COVID hit, all things changed. And we took the ability or the chance then to reconsider what we were working with and look at if there was any new components that needed to be added. And as a result, shortly after the world changed, we decided to incorporate the concept of adaptability, because by gosh, I think that that's probably the one key word since March, middle of March, that has come up more than any other skill set, and that is the skill set of adaptability to respond to, and not react to, but rather respond to things happening in the world. So as a result, the concept of adaptability was added to the overarching concept to recognize that as a board, we needed to be able to change in a good way, no matter what comes our way. We also included, and it was thought by the Board of Trustees, that very explicit direction needed to occur or take place in this with regard to the board's commitment to dismantling racism in the board. And so we are very pleased that was able to take place. You will be hearing more and more about the multi-year plan in the months ahead as we start to see more and more come out about the operationalization of the key concepts. And I'm sure that through your individual schools, you'll be learning more about it. I don't see it coming up on the screen, but I can share a link to that multi-year plan in the chat box for everyone. So that would be just a quick overview of a very complex plan that will guide this board for the next 4 years. And I'd like to just one last point, I should have mentioned it earlier. This plan was developed after in consultation with all stakeholders in the board. Very pleasing to us was that we had over 4,000 respondents to our survey, which included parents, students, staff, and community members on a broad range of issues. And so this is, again, a very comprehensive study that helped shape the vision sessions that then resulted in the plan that we have. So we're very, very proud of this. We know that it's going to take us forward in a very confident manner for the next 4 years. I'd like to turn it over to Trustee Rocha and Trustee Amos to include some other things, some other items as to what's been happening at the board table. Take it away. Thank you.
I can go ahead. So I'm going to provide everyone with an update on how COVID has impacted several different factors with school. One of the words that Jean used just recently was the word adaptability. So not only has the school board had to adapt, but our students have had to adapt. And we're very happy to report that for Quad 1, which is the term that just recently ended in November for high school students, that 97.2% of our students earned all their credits. So that is up from data from semester 1 from last year. So it just goes to show that despite everything that's happened, our secondary students have pulled through, they're doing their best, and they're adapting to this new world. So kudos to our students and to the parents who support them, as well as our staff. 2 funding announcements related to COVID, and that was that just last week, the Minister of Education made 2 funding announcements. The first one is stabilization funding, and that is that all school boards will be receiving funding to bridge the gap between the gap in enrollment decline as a result of COVID. So just to give you our numbers, HDSB's enrollment is just shy of 100 students less than projected. And there are a few reasons why we have less students this year. Some are a result of loss of full-day kindergarten students who chose to just stay home this year because, as you know, kindergarten is not mandatory. Some other students have opted for homeschooling. Our international students, they didn't all come over just because of travel restrictions. And there's also an overall lower migration to our region. So either, we should know this week, mind you, there's only 1 day left in the week. So either sometime today or tomorrow, we'll know what the exact amount of funding we'll be receiving. The second pot of money is the high priority COVID funding, and that was the last of the federal funding related, the last of the federal funding released in phase 1 that was allocated to 4 new regions that entered the red zone, which includes Halton. And our board will receive $2.1 million to address local needs, including additional teaching or school support staff, custodial staff, or technology. And an additional $50,000 was provided to assist with technology for students in care facilities. At last night's board meeting, we've heard from parents, especially parent councils, that fundraising is an area of concern. Schools want to continue fundraising, but our focus this year is to fundraise for charities and community organizations instead of focusing for your school. And parents are looking for further clarification and guidelines. So I think something is going to be prepared for them shortly, just to give them some guidelines as to what fundraising can and cannot be done. And on a good note, if we have any parents here with students who are graduating from high school, we were initially paused while we focused on our IPAC protocols, but the team has developed some guidance on how schools can move forward while continuing to honor the measures. So photographers will begin sessions in schools early in January, and each school will communicate the plans to their community. So actually, John, maybe a question for you. The grad photos, are they just for secondary students, or are they also for any graduating student? So grade 8s and possibly grade 6 students. Do you know?
We are working through for elementary as well. We started with the high schools because that happened sooner, but we're also working on elementary.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. On to you, Kelly.
Thanks. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our LTAP, that's the short form. It's called Long-Term Accommodation Plan. And every year we approve that. We have over 65,000 students, and by 2029, we could have over 70,000. So right now, majority of the growth for Halton is in North Oakville and South Milton. And we just recently received funding for the Oakville Northeast #1 high school and an elementary school in Milton. And there's also an elementary and high school that are being currently built in Milton. So the high school in Oakville, on December the 14th, there is going to be a public meeting with a notice for rezoning. So that information will be shared on the website and through social media. But anyway, is a public information meeting about the rezoning for the new Oakville Northeast #1 high school. And we have proposed public schools for Northeast Oakville and for Milton. But at this time, especially for Northeast Oakville, the new housing, a lot of that will have to end up be bused to other schools that have room, because unfortunately we don't have the funding for any more schools to be built yet. And we're really hoping that we'll be able to get that, but that comes from the government. So it's always good for the public to advocate for those who are in this area. Last night we also had a presentation on, I'm sorry. Just a sec, I have to pull my notes up, so I'll make sure I have it. employment equity standards for the board. The presentation was part of the board meeting, so if you're interested, you go look. But we really want to make sure that we're doing all the right things to make sure that we are making sure that we get the people who need to be reflected in the classroom, and in other parts of the board. So that is part of the employment equity standards presentation that was shared with us yesterday. Anyways, I believe that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I believe that ends our meeting for tonight, except for the next dates. So our next meeting date, if nobody has any questions, I didn't see any hands except, no, we're good. Our next meeting date is January 14th, and that one is, I believe, one just like this one with HDSB Equity Team. That's with just us. And the next week after that is January 21st, which will be a meeting for the school liaison reps. So those are the two meeting dates coming up. In the agenda is a link to the list of all meeting dates for the year. So look on that and then add that to your calendars. And I believe
Nina has her hand up.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yes, I have my hand raised. Yeah. So just would like to share with you about our PIC event this year. So we are planning to screen the Screenager next chapter. So we just find this may be a good opportunity because usually if you do the screening, it only for the specific day, right? But this year, I think they have a 2-week period. So I think families can stay home, for example, the 2 week during the Christmas holiday, and you can watch it on any of those days. So I think the cost is around $850 Canadian dollars. And it has license for 300 families. So we would like to, possibly do this with another school or maybe 2 schools together. So if any schools are interested, so we can talk about it. Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else have a question? Oh, sorry, Rupi.
Sorry, I just totally missed. What was Nina asking in regards to what is that they want to do with the school? If
they were just
interested.
Nina, go ahead if you want to answer that.
Thank you. Okay. I will reach out to her with her email.
Yeah, it was to collaborate in the funding for the Screenagers. Okay, so is everybody good?
Sorry, was the question for me? I accidentally pressed the wrong button. I just left the meeting and rejoined.
That's okay. I think Ruby's going to reach out to you and ask you a question. Am I right? Okay.
Okay.
Oh, Tanya has a hand up. Go ahead, Tanya.
Yeah, this is information for Nina, and also I see Ali. So Nina, what you can probably do if you are looking for schools and if you're looking to get a response quickly, you might want to reach out via email to the email group for council chairs. Do you have it?
I think I have the emails. So thank you so much for the advice. I will definitely do.
Okay, perfect. Because that way you'll reach every school at once, and you'll probably get a faster response.
Okay, definitely. I understand.
Great. Thank you. So we'll adjourn this meeting now at 8:15, only 15 minutes late. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. It was a pleasure meeting you all.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh, Ali, I think that you may have gotten recently. You may have been invited to a group.
Okay.
If you saw an email there, like, and if you don't have that group in your email, then just send John an email and he'll get you onto that list.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Thanks for a good meeting.